Hello people, today we are going to learn about the planning process group project management process. Identify risk. So let's see. Identify risks is the process of determining which risk may affect the project and documenting their characteristic. The key benefit of this process is documentation of existing risks and the knowledge and ability it provides to the project team to anticipate events. There is a long list of inputs involved for identifying risk: risk management plan, cost management plan, schedule management plan, quality management plan, human resource management plan, scope baseline, activity cost estimate, activity duration estimate, stakeholder register, project documents, procurement document, enterprise environmental factor, organization process as. The tools and techniques used are document and documentation reviews, information gathering techniques, checklist analysis, assumption analysis, diagramming techniques, SWOT analysis, expert judgment, and the output is obviously risk register. So let's see the inputs. The first thing in the input is risk management plan. Key elements of the risk management plan that contribute to identify risk process are the assignment of roles and responsibilities, provision for risk management activities in the budget and schedule, and categories of risk which are sometimes expressed as risk breakdown structure or RBS. The next thing is cost management plan, which provides processes and controls that can be used to help identify risk across the project. The next thing is schedule management plan, which provides insight to the project time, schedule, objectives, and expectation which may be impacted by risk, both known and unknown risk. The next thing is quality management plan, which provides a baseline of quality measures and metrics for use in identifying risk. Next thing is human resource management plan, which provides guidance on how project resources should be defined, staffed, managed, and eventually released. It can also contain roles and responsibility, project organization chart, and staffing management plan, which form a key input to identify risk process. The next input is scope baseline. Project assumptions are found in the project scope statement. Uncertainty in project assumptions should be evaluated as potential cause of the project risk. The work breakdown structure is critical input to identifying risk as it facilitates an understanding of potential risk at both the micro and macro levels. The risk can be identified and subsequently tracked at summary, control account, or work packages level. The next input is activity cost estimate, which reviews are useful in identifying risks as they provide a quantitative assessment of the likely cost to complete scheduled activities and ideally are expressed as a range, with the width of range indicating the degrees of risk. The review may result in projection indicating the estimate in either sufficient or insufficient to complete the activity, that is, pose a risk to the project. The next input is activity duration estimate, which reviews are useful in identifying risk related to the time allowance for the activities or project as a whole, again with the width of the range of such estimates indicating the relative degrees of the risk. The next input is stakeholder register. It contains information about the stakeholder and is useful for soliciting inputs to identifying risk, as this will ensure that the key stakeholders, especially the stakeholder sponsor and the customer, are interviewed or otherwise participate during the identify risk process. The next input is project documents, which provide the project team with information about the decision that help better identify project risk. Project document improve across teams and stakeholder communication and include uh, things like project charter, project schedule, project schedule network diagram, issue log, quality checklist, and other information proven to be valuable in identifying risk. The next input is procurement document. If the project requires external procurement of resources, procurement document becomes a key input to identifying the risk process. The complexity and the level of detail of the procurement document should be consistent with the value of risk associated with planned procurement. The next input is enterprise environment factors, and they include published information, including commercial databases, academic studies, published checklist, benchmarking, industry studies, and risk attitudes. The next input is organizational process asset, and they include project files, including actual data, organizational process control, and risk statement format or template, and lesson learned. The tools now let's see the tools and techniques involved for identifying risk. The first thing is document reviews. A structured review of the project documentation may be performed, including plans, assumptions, previous project files, agreements, and other information. The quality of the plans as well as consistency between those plans and the project requirement and assumption may be indicators of risk in the project. The next tool technique is information gathering technique, and examples of information gathering technique used to identifying risk can include brainstorming, and the goal of brainstorming is to obtain a comprehensive list of project risks. The project team usually performs brainstorming often with multidisciplinary set of experts who are not part of the team. Ideas about project risks are generated under the leadership of a facilitator, either in a traditional free-form brainstorm session or structured mass interviewing techniques. Categories of risks, such as in a risk breakdown structure, can be used as a framework. The next tool and technique under the information gathering technique is Delphi technique, and Delphi technique is a way to reach a consensus of experts. Project risk experts participate in this technique anonymously. A facilitator uses questionnaire to solicit ideas about the important project risk. The responses are summarized and are then recirculated to the experts for further comment. The consensus may be reached in a few rounds of this process. The Delphi technique helps reduce bias in the data and keeps any one person from having undue influence on the outcome. And next thing is interviewing. Interviewing experienced project participants, stakeholders, and subject matter experts helps to identify risk. And next thing is root cause analysis, is a specific technique used to identify problem, discover the underlying cause that lead to it, and develop preventive action. The next tool and technique used is checklist analysis. Risk identifying checklists are developed based on the historical information and knowledge that has been accumulated from the previous similar project from other sources of information. The lowest level of risk breakdown structure can also be used as a risk checklist. While checklist may be quick and simple, it is impossible to build an exhaustive one, and care should be taken to ensure the checklist is not used to avoid the effort of proper risk identification. The team should also explore items that do not appear on the checklist. Additionally, the checklist should be pruned from time to time to remove or archive related items. The checklist should be reviewed during the project closure to incorporate new lessons learned and improve it for the use on the future projects. The next tool and technique used is assumption analysis. Every project and its plan is conceived and developed based on the set of hypotheses, scenarios, or assumptions. Assumption analysis explores the validity of assumptions as they apply to the project. It identifies risks to the project from inaccuracy, instability, inconsistency, or incompleteness of assumption. The next tool and technique used is risk diagramming technique. which include cause and effect diagram, system or process flowchart, and influence diagram. Cause and effect diagram is also known as the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram and are used for identifying the causes of risk. And system and flowchart show various elements of system in how various elements of the system interrelate and the mechanism of causation. Influence diagram are graphical representation of situations showing causal influences, time ordering of events, and other relationship among the variables and outcomes. This is the diagram which shows the influence diagram. This is a project estimate which is based on the project activity and deliverables, and risk condition applies to both project estimate and deliverables. The next two-line technique used is SWOT analysis. This technique examines the project for each from each of the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats perspective to increase the breadth of identified risk by including internally generated risk. The technique starts with identification of strengths, weaknesses of the organization, focusing on either the project organization or business area in general. The SWOT analysis then identifies any opportunities for the project that arise from the organizational strengths and any threats arising from organizational weakness. The analysis also examines the degree to which organizational strength affect threats, offset threats, as well as identifying opportunity that may serve to overcome the weakness. Output is obviously the risk register. The primary output to identify risk is the initial entry into the risk register. The preparation of risk register begins in the identify risk process with the following information: list of identified risks and list of potential responses. So the identified risks are described in much detail as is reasonable. A structure for describing risk using risk statement may be applied. For example, event may occur causing impact, or if cause exists, event may occur leading to effect. In addition to the list of identified risks, the root cause of those risks may become more evident. These are the fundamental conditions or events that may give rise to one or more identified risks. They should be recorded and used to support future risk identification for this and other projects. Then list of potential responses. Potential responses to a risk may sometime be identified during the identify risk process. These responses, if identified in the process, should be used as an input to the planned risk responses process. So guys, I hope you got some idea on what is identify risk process and output risk register. So come back to my channel or subscribe to my channel for more videos on PMP and other things. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.